Everyone, today I want to talk about something that may seem strange at first, how our enemies can be our greatest teachers. Yes, you heard that right. Often we see those who oppose us as obstacles, as sources of frustration, or even as threats. But what if I told you that they hold some of life's most valuable lessons? Growth is never born out of comfort. It comes from struggle, challenge, and resistance. Opposition forces us to step outside our familiar routines and confront our limitations. It demands that we push beyond what we believe we are capable of, testing our endurance, our patience, and our problem-solving abilities. Without resistance, there would be no need for adaptation, no reason to improve, and no motivation to reach greater heights. And think about the way muscles grow in the body. When we lift weights or engage in strenuous activity, we are essentially breaking down muscle fibers. In response, the body repairs and strengthens them, making them larger and more powerful than before. The same principle applies to personal growth. When we face opposition, whether from individuals, circumstances, or even self-doubt, we are forced to strengthen our skills, refine our strategy, and develop new perspectives. Without challenges, we remain stagnant, never realizing our full potential. History offers countless examples of individuals who became great because of the opposition they faced. Nelson Mandela endured decades of imprisonment, yet he emerged as a symbol of resilience and forgiveness, leading his nation toward unity. Thomas Edison failed over 1,000 times before finally inventing the working light bulb, proving that failure and resistance were merely stepping stones to success. Even in sports, great athletes sharpen their skills by competing against stronger opponents, using their losses as lessons rather than discouragements. Opposition also teaches us self-awareness. When we are faced with resistance, we are forced to analyze our weaknesses and blind spots. If everything always went smoothly, we would never pause to evaluate where we need improvement. It is only through criticism, rejection, and struggle that we can develop a deeper understanding of ourselves and work toward becoming better. Furthermore, opposition cultivates mental toughness. The more we face resistance, the stronger and more resilient we become. Challenges teach us discipline, patience, and the ability to think critically under pressure. They prepare us for future obstacles and equip us with the confidence needed to face adversity head-on. The world does not reward those who shy away from difficulty. It rewards those who embrace it, learn from it, and use it as a foundation for growth. Thus, rather than fearing opposition or viewing it as an obstacle, we should embrace it as a necessary force that drives us toward improvement. Every challenge we encounter is an opportunity to evolve into a stronger, wiser, and more capable version of ourselves. One of the most valuable lessons we can learn from those who oppose us is the ability to recognize and address our weaknesses. While friends and supporters often encourage and uplift us, they may not always point out our flaws or limitations. Enemies, on the other hand, have no hesitation in exposing our vulnerabilities. Though this may seem harsh or uncomfortable, it is actually one of the greatest gifts they can offer. If we are wise enough to listen, we can use their criticism and opposition as a mirror to see the areas where we need to grow. Weaknesses are often hidden from us when we exist in an environment of comfort. If no one challenges us, we may assume that we are strong in every area of our lives. However, when an adversary steps in, whether in the form of a competitor, a critic, or an opponent in any aspect of life, they force us to confront the truth about ourselves. A person who opposes us sees the gaps in our abilities, the flaws in our plans, and the inconsistencies in our arguments. Instead of dismissing their insights as mere hostility, we should analyze them carefully. What are they pointing out? Could there be some truth in their words? Are they exposing a blind spot we have ignored? For instance, in sports, an athlete may believe they are strong until they compete against someone faster, more strategic, or better trained. Losing to a stronger opponent reveals the areas that need improvement. A boxer who gets knocked out repeatedly on the same side of their defense cannot ignore the fact that they have a weakness they must either adjust or continue to fail. In business, an entrepreneur may think their product or service is flawless until a competitor outperforms them. That loss can serve as a wake-up call, highlighting areas where innovation or better customer service is needed. Enemies also force us to develop humility. It is easy to become overconfident when we are surrounded by agreement and praise. But when we face resistance, it reminds us that we are not perfect, that we still have much to learn. A student who only receives easy tests will never know their true academic potential, but a difficult exam exposes the areas where they struggle. In the same way, a leader who only receives praise will never know how to handle criticism, but one who is challenged learns to refine their vision and approach. Beyond skills and abilities, opposition reveals emotional weaknesses as well. How do we handle criticism? Do we become defensive, angry, or insecure? Or do we take a step back and ask ourselves whether the critique has merit? Those who challenge us test our patience, emotional intelligence, and ability to handle pressure. If an enemy's words easily shake us, perhaps we need to build more confidence. If opposition discourages us, maybe we need to develop more resilience. Ultimately, our enemies are like unfiltered teachers. They do not sugarcoat the truth, and their words often sting. But in that discomfort lies the chance for real growth. If we listen to what they expose about us, we can turn our weaknesses into strengths and emerge stronger than ever. Resilience is not something we are born with. It is something that is forged through struggle, hardship, and adversity. Just as metal becomes stronger when it is subjected to intense heat and pressure, human character is shaped and refined by the challenges we face. Struggles are not obstacles meant to break us. They are the very experiences that teach us how to stand firm in the face of difficulty, how to endure setbacks, and how to keep moving forward even when everything seems to be against us. Throughout history, the most successful and influential people have been those who refused to let struggles define them. They understood that hardship is not a punishment, but a teacher showing us what we are truly capable of. Take, for example, Thomas Edison, who failed thousands of times before finally perfecting the light bulb. Many would have given up after the first few failures, but Edison saw each failure as a lesson, a step closer to success. His resilience was built through struggle, and because he endured, the world was forever changed by his invention. Resilience is also evident in the lives of great leaders like Nelson Mandela, who endured 27 years of imprisonment, but never lost sight of his vision for a free and equal South Africa. Instead of allowing his struggle to break his spirit, he used it as fuel to become stronger, wiser, and more determined. His resilience in the face of overwhelming adversity became an inspiration to millions, proving that true strength is not about avoiding struggle, but about rising above it. On a more personal level, struggles teach us the value of perseverance. Think about the difficult moments in your own life, whether it was failing at something you worked hard for, experiencing personal loss, or facing rejection. In those moments, it may have felt like the world was against you, like there was no way forward. But if you look back now, you may realize that those experiences shaped you, made you more determined, and helped you grow in ways you never imagined. Struggles also teach us adaptability. When faced with obstacles, we are forced to think differently, to find new ways to approach problems, and to adjust our strategies. A person who never experiences difficulty never learns to adapt. But someone who has been through hardships develops the ability to face uncertainty with confidence. They learn that failure is not the end, but rather an opportunity to learn, improve, and try again with a stronger mindset. Moreover, struggles build emotional strength. Life is unpredictable and challenges will always arise. Those who have never faced hardship often struggle to cope when adversity finally comes their way. However, those who have been tested by struggle learn to manage their emotions, to remain calm, under pressure and to find inner strength even when things seem hopeless. This kind of emotional resilience is crucial not only for personal success, but also for maintaining healthy relationships, handling stress, and leading others. The truth is, we do not grow when things are easy. We grow when we are forced to push beyond our limits. Struggles teach us who we truly are, what we are capable of, and how far we can go when we refuse to give up. The pain of struggle may be difficult to endure, but it is through that pain that we build resilience, strength, and the unshakable belief that we can overcome anything that stands in our way. Criticism is often seen as something negative, something to be avoided or dismissed. Many people take offense when they are criticized, feeling attacked or belittled. However, those who truly seek personal growth and success understand that criticism, even when harsh, is one of the most valuable tools for improvement. It serves as a mirror reflecting back to us things we may not see on our own. It challenges our perceptions, forces us to reconsider our methods, and if used correctly, can propel us toward greatness. One of the reasons criticism is so valuable is that it provides an outside perspective. As individuals, we are often too close to our own work, ideas, or actions to see their flaws. We may believe that we are doing everything correctly, but someone looking in from the outside might notice inconsistencies, inefficiencies, or weaknesses that we overlook. Constructive criticism, when given with good intentions, helps us refine our skills and correct our mistakes before they become bigger problems. Even when criticism is not given kindly, it can still be useful. Not all criticism will be constructive, and sometimes it may come from people who do not have our best interests at heart. However, instead of dismissing it outright, we should analyze it carefully. Is there any truth in what is being said? Could this feedback, even if poorly delivered, actually highlight an area we need to improve? Many successful individuals have used even their harshest critics as a source of motivation to become better. Consider the world of professional athletes. A coach's job is to identify weaknesses in a player's performance and push them to improve. If an athlete only surrounded themselves with people who constantly praise them, they would never recognize their weak points or develop the skills necessary to compete at the highest level. Similarly, in business, entrepreneurs who ignore criticism from customers or industry experts risk making costly mistakes. The best companies in the world actively seek feedback, even negative feedback, because they understand that it is the key to continuous improvement. Criticism also builds resilience. Not everyone agree with us and not everyone like what we do. Facing criticism teaches us how to handle opposition without becoming defensive or discouraged. It helps us develop emotional strength and the ability to take feedback objectively rather than personally. Those who fear criticism often avoid challenges altogether, staying within their comfort zones to avoid the discomfort of being judged. But those who embrace criticism grow stronger, learning to separate useful feedback from mere negativity and using it to fuel their progress. Some of the greatest thinkers, artists, and innovators in history were heavily criticized in their time. Vincent van Gogh, now celebrated as one of the most brilliant painters of all time, was largely unrecognized and dismissed during his lifetime. Many authors, including J.K. Rowling, faced multiple rejections before finding success. If they had let criticism defeat them, their contributions to the world would never have been realized. Instead, they persisted, refined their craft, and ultimately proved their critics wrong. Furthermore, criticism teaches humility. No matter how talented or experienced we are, there's always room for improvement. Accepting criticism with an open mind allows us to remain humble and continuously strive for growth. It reminds us that we are never above learning and that the path to mastery requires constant self-reflection and adjustment. Those who resist criticism often stagnate, while those who embrace it continue to evolve. In many ways, criticism is a hidden gift. It may not always feel good to hear, but is essential for anyone who wants to grow, improve, and achieve excellence. Whether it comes from mentors, peers, competitors, or even those who wish to see us fail, criticism provides insight into how we can become better versions of ourselves. The key is to listen, learn, and use it as a tool for transformation rather than as a reason to give up. Throughout history, the greatest leaders have not only faced opposition, but have used it as a source of wisdom, strategy, and growth. True leadership is not about avoiding conflict or silencing critics. It is about learning from resistance, adapting to challenges, and refining one's vision through the lessons that adversaries provide. Some of the most iconic figures in history became stronger precisely because they had powerful opponents who forced them to think differently, act strategically, and evolve as leaders. Adversaries reveal blind spots that leaders may not recognize on their own. No leader, no matter how brilliant, is free from flaws or weaknesses. When an opponent challenges a leader's ideas, decisions, or actions, it creates an opportunity for reflection. Opposition forces leaders to ask themselves important questions. Am I missing something? Is there a weakness in my plan? Could my opponent's argument hold some truth? Great leaders do not ignore these questions. Instead, they analyze them carefully, using the challenge as an opportunity for growth. One striking historical example is Abraham Lincoln. During the American Civil War, Lincoln faced fierce opposition, not just from the Confederacy, but also from critics within his own government. Rather than surrounding himself with people who only agreed with him, Lincoln intentionally brought his political rivals into his cabinet, forming what historians call a team of rivals. He understood that differing perspectives, even from those who opposed him, could provide valuable insights. By listening to opposing voices, he made better, more informed decisions that ultimately strengthened his leadership. Similarly, Mahatma Gandhi, one of the most influential leaders in history, learned from his adversaries rather than simply fighting against them. He faced immense opposition from the British colonial government in India, yet he studied their strategies, laws, and weaknesses carefully. By understanding how his opponents operated, he was able to craft a nonviolent resistance movement that was highly effective. His ability to learn from his adversaries rather than blindly opposing them allowed him to outmaneuver a more powerful force and lead India to independence. Great leaders also understand that adversaries force them to refine their strategies. When faced with an opponent, a leader cannot afford to be complacent. Every challenge requires an intelligent response, and every setback presents an opportunity to rethink and improve. In business, for example, major companies thrive not by ignoring competition, but by studying their competitors closely. Apple and Microsoft have been rivals for decades, yet their competition has pushed them to innovate continually, leading to better products and groundbreaking advancements in technology. Without competition, there would be no need for innovation. Adversaries also shape a leader's resilience and mental toughness. Every great leader has faced criticism, resistance, and even betrayal. Winston Churchill, who led Britain through World War II, was often doubted by his own government. His decisions were scrutinized and his leadership was questioned. Yet, instead of being discouraged, Churchill used the criticism as motivation to strengthen his resolve. He understood that leadership requires standing firm in one's convictions, even in the face of immense opposition. Moreover, learning from adversaries teaches emotional intelligence and diplomacy. A leader who understands their opponent's mindset, motivations, and fears is better equipped to navigate conflict. The ability to anticipate an adversary's moves, negotiate wisely, and turn opposition into collaboration is a skill that separates great leaders from ordinary ones. Many world leaders, from Nelson Mandela to Theodore Roosevelt, mastered the art of diplomacy by studying their opponents and using that knowledge to build alliances, negotiate peace, and achieve long-term success. Leadership is not about avoiding enemies, but about learning from them. Whether in politics, business, sports, or everyday life, those who challenge us provide the greatest opportunities for growth. They push us to sharpen our thinking, improve our strategies, and develop the strength needed to lead effectively. Great leaders recognize that opposition is not a threat, it is a teacher, one that offers lessons that cannot be learned in times of ease and agreement. The way we perceive challenges, enemies, and opposition is often more important than the challenges themselves. Our mindset determines whether we see adversity as an opportunity to grow or as an insurmountable obstacle. If we approach our enemies and struggles with a defensive or negative mindset, we will likely be overwhelmed by frustration, anger, or self-doubt. However, if we shift our perspective and see opposition as a learning experience, we can turn even our greatest hardships into sources of strength. A fixed mindset leads to stagnation, while a growth mindset fosters resilience and success. The concept of a growth mindset, popularized by psychologist Carol Dweck, suggests that people who believe they can learn from challenges and improve through effort are far more likely to succeed than those who believe their abilities are fixed and unchangeable. When we view our enemies as teachers rather than threats, we automatically shift into a growth-oriented perspective. Instead of feeling defeated by criticism or competition, we start to ask, what can I learn from this? How can this make me stronger? Many people allow their egos to block their personal growth. When faced with criticism or opposition, their first reaction is often defensiveness or denial. They refuse to acknowledge their flaws because they associate criticism with failure. However, great achievers understand that feedback, especially from opponents, can be incredibly valuable. Instead of reacting emotionally, they pause, reflect, and extract the lessons hidden within the challenge. A strong mindset is not about rejecting negative experiences, but about transforming them into opportunities for growth. History is filled with examples of individuals who succeeded because of their mindset in the face of adversity. Take Michael Jordan, for instance. He was cut from his high school basketball team, but instead of allowing the setback to break his confidence, he used it as fuel to work harder than ever before. His mindset turned a moment of rejection into a lifelong pursuit of excellence. Jordan later said, "I failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed." His story proves that the right mindset can turn failures, criticism, and opposition into stepping stones toward greatness. Another example is Steve Jobs, who was fired from the very company he co-founded, Apple. Many would have seen this as an ultimate defeat, but Jobs took it as a lesson, built a new company, NXT, acquired Picture, and eventually returned to Apple stronger than ever. He later admitted that getting fired from Apple was one of the best things that ever happened to him because it allowed him to reinvent himself and gain a new perspective. This was only possible because of his mindset. Instead of seeing adversity as the end of the road, he saw it as a new beginning. A powerful mindset also influences how we handle failure. Many people fear failure so much that they avoid taking risks altogether. They would rather stay in their comfort zones than face possible defeat. However, the most successful individuals understand that failure is not the opposite of success. It is a necessary part of the journey. Without failure, there is no growth. Without challenges, there is no strength. Without enemies, there is no self-improvement. A strong mindset embraces these realities rather than running from them. Moreover, our mindset affects how we interpret the actions and words of others. If we assume that every opponent is simply out to harm us, we may close ourselves off to valuable lessons. However, if we adopt the perspective that everyone, even our enemies, can teach us something, we open ourselves to a wealth of knowledge. Instead of resenting those who criticize or challenge us, we can begin to appreciate them as catalysts for personal and professional development. Ultimately, life is not about what happens to us, but how we respond to it. Challenges, struggles, and adversaries will always exist. The question is, will we let them break us or will we let them build us? The answer lies in our mindset. Those who approach life with a growth-oriented perspective will find strength in their struggles, wisdom in their failures, and opportunities in their opposition. One of the most significant lessons we can learn from our enemies is the importance of strategy and adaptability. In every aspect of life, whether in personal relationships, business, politics, or even warfare, understanding how to anticipate challenges, plan effectively, and adapt to unexpected obstacles is a crucial skill. Enemies, unlike friends, do not offer comfort or support. Instead, they challenge us, force us to think critically, and make us reconsider our approach. When faced with opposition, we are compelled to become more strategic in our actions, more calculated in our decisions, and more flexible in our responses. Throughout history, some of the greatest leaders and warriors became successful not by avoiding their enemies, but by studying them. Ancient military strategists like Sun Tzu, the author of The Art of War, understood this principle well. He famously said, "Know your enemy and know yourself, and you will not be imperiled in 100 battles." This wisdom highlights the idea that learning from one's adversary is just as important as self-awareness. A leader who fails to understand their opposition is more likely to be outmaneuvered, while one who carefully studies their enemy's tactics can anticipate their moves and develop superior strategies. Consider the game of chess. In chess, every move an opponent makes must be analyzed and countered with precision. A great chess player does not play based on emotion. They play based on logic, patience, and strategy. They anticipate their opponent's next move, set traps, and adapt their approach based on the evolving situation. Life works the same way. The challenges posed by enemies force us to think ahead, adjust our plans, and refine our decision-making skills. Those who master this ability are not easily defeated because they have learned to be adaptable and strategic in every situation. The business world also offers countless examples of how enemies can sharpen our strategic thinking. Consider the fierce rivalry between Coca-Cola and Pepsi. These two companies have competed for market dominance for over a century, each studying the other's strategies and adapting accordingly. When Coca-Cola launched new products, Pepsi responded with innovations of its own. When Pepsi focused on youth marketing, Coca-Cola adjusted its brand to stay relevant. This constant back and forth has pushed both companies to improve, evolve, and stay competitive in an ever-changing market. If one had ignored the other or failed to adapt, they would have faded into obscurity. Another compelling example is Netflix and Blockbuster. Blockbuster, once a giant in the movie rental industry, failed to learn from its emerging enemy Netflix. While Netflix adapted to digital streaming and changing consumer habits, Blockbuster stubbornly stuck to its traditional model. As a result, Netflix thrived while Blockbuster collapsed. This illustrates a critical lesson. Those who fail to learn from their competitors or adapt to new challenges risk being left behind. Enemies do not just teach us strategy, they also help us develop resilience in high-pressure situations. In politics, for instance, leaders are constantly faced with opposition. The best politicians are those who learn from their adversaries, adjust their messaging, and refine their policies based on public sentiment. Abraham Lincoln, for example, faced tremendous criticism and opposition throughout his presidency. Rather than letting his enemies discourage him, he studied their perspectives, adapted his strategies, and ultimately strengthened his leadership. Adaptability is also crucial in personal life. Whether dealing with a difficult boss, a challenging competitor, or a personal rival, knowing how to adjust our approach without losing sight of our goals is a skill that can make the difference between failure and success. A rigid mindset leads to frustration and stagnation, while a flexible, strategic mindset allows us to navigate challenges with confidence and intelligence. Ultimately, enemies serve as unintentional teachers of strategy, foresight, and adaptability. They force us to refine our decision-making, plan more effectively, and develop the mental flexibility needed to thrive in an ever-changing world. Those who embrace these lessons become stronger, smarter, and more capable of handling whatever life throws their way. Facing opposition is never easy, but it is one of the most powerful ways to build character and resilience. When we encounter resistance, criticism, or even outright hostility, we are forced to confront our weaknesses, reassess our values, and develop the inner strength necessary to persevere. Without adversity, we would never truly know our limits or discover our ability to overcome obstacles. Enemies, challenges, and struggles do not just test us, they shape us into stronger, more capable individuals. Resilience is the ability to bounce back from setbacks, failures, and hardships. It is not something we are born with, rather it is something we develop through experience. Every time we face opposition and push through it, we build our capacity to handle even greater challenges in the future. Those who have never encountered serious difficulties often struggle when adversity finally arrives. On the other hand, those who have faced obstacles and overcome them develop an unshakable sense of confidence and perseverance. History is full of examples of individuals whose strength of character was forged in adversity. Consider Nelson Mandela, who endured 27 years in prison for his opposition to apartheid in South Africa. Many people would have been broken by such an experience, but Mandela emerged not bitter or defeated, but stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever. His years of imprisonment gave him time to reflect, refine his vision, and develop the resilience that would later help him lead his nation to unity and reconciliation. Without the hardships he endured, he might never have become the leader the world remembers today. Similarly, Malala Yousafzai, the Pakistani activist for girls' education, faced violent opposition from the Taliban, who attempted to silence her through an assassination attempt. Instead of retreating in fear, she used her experience to fuel her activism, becoming a global symbol of courage and resiliency. Her story proves that opposition does not have to weaken us. It can ignite a fire within us, pushing us to fight even harder for what we believe in. Resilience is not just about surviving hardship, it is about thriving despite it. Some of the most successful people in the world did not get there because their journey was easy, but because they refused to give up when they faced rejection, failure, or criticism. J.K. Rowling, the author of Harry Potter, was rejected by multiple publishers before finally achieving success. Had she given in to self-doubt or discouragement, the world would have never known her magical stories. The struggle she endured only made her more determined, proving that resilience is often the deciding factor between success and failure. Even in sports, opposition builds stronger, more determined athletes. Consider Serena Williams, who faced numerous obstacles, including racial and gender biases, on her journey to becoming one of the greatest tennis players of all time. Instead of letting these challenges break her spirit, she used them as motivation to train harder, compete fiercely, and prove her critics wrong. Her resilience is what set her apart, not just her talent, but her ability to keep going no matter what obstacles stood in her way. Beyond individual stories, opposition also strengthens character on a broader societal level. Civil rights movements, social justice campaigns, and revolutions have all been fueled by resistance. The greatest societal changes have come not from avoiding opposition, but from facing it head on and standing firm in the face of adversity. Those who fight for justice, equality, and progress are often met with harsh criticism, threats, and even violence, but it is their resilience that ultimately leads to lasting change. Moreover, opposition teaches us humility and patience. When we face setbacks, we learn that success is not always immediate and that true growth takes time. We develop emotional endurance, learning to stay calm in the face of criticism, rejection, or failure. Instead of becoming bitter or vengeful, we learn to channel our emotions into productive action. This ability to remain composed under pressure is one of the defining traits of strong, resilient individuals. At its core, resilience is about refusing to be defeated. It is about recognizing that every setback is temporary, that every failure is a lesson, and that every challenge is an opportunity for growth. Those who cultivate resilience do not fear opposition. They welcome it as a chance to test their strength, refine their character, and emerge even stronger on the other side. Opposition, whether from enemies, challenges, or life itself, is not a curse. It is a gift that shapes us into the strongest versions of ourselves. In life, we'll all face enemies, challenges, and moments of adversity. It is easy to view opposition as something negative, something to be feared or avoided. But in truth, our enemies, whether they are critics, competitors, or obstacles, are some of our greatest teachers. They force us to grow in ways that comfort and ease never could. Through opposition, we gain wisdom, resilience, and strategic thinking. We learn how to act, how to improve, and how to stand firm in our beliefs. We discover our weaknesses and are given the opportunity to strengthen them. We develop perseverance, learning that setbacks are not the end of the road, but stepping stones to success. Every great leader, innovator, and visionary has faced resistance, yet they succeeded because they understood that challenges are not barriers, they are lessons. Rather than resenting those who challenge us, we should learn from them. Rather than fearing criticism, we should embrace it as an opportunity to grow. Every difficulty we overcome makes us stronger, sharper, and more capable. The enemy is a very good teacher if we are willing to listen, learn, and use the lessons to become the best versions of ourselves.